The morning sky over New York City changed forever when the Veldari ships appeared. They came without warning on a Tuesday in April, 27 massive vessels that shimmered like cut diamonds against the blue. Traffic stopped. People stood in streets looking up. Phone networks crashed as millions tried to share what they saw. Lisa Carter was in the Pentagon when the first images reached her desk. As Admiral of Earth's Combined Defense Force, she had trained for this moment her entire career. She watched the main screen as the alien ships positioned themselves in a perfect formation above major cities around the world. "What are we looking at?" she asked, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Alan Rodriguez, the chief science officer, adjusted his glasses. "Each ship appears to be roughly 2 miles long. Material composition unknown. No heat signatures we can detect." "They're just sitting there, Admiral." The first transmission came 3 hours later. It broadcast simultaneously on all frequencies in perfect English. "People of Earth, we are the Veldari Federation. We come seeking alliance. Your resources for our protection. A fair exchange." Within an hour, the United Nations Security Council gathered in emergency session. Representatives from every nation watched as the message repeated in their own languages. President Diane Miller addressed the council via secure video from the White House bunker. "We need time to understand their intentions," she said. "General Morris, what are our defense capabilities against this level of technology?" Frank Morris stood, his face grim. "Madam President, our analysis suggests their weapons could destroy our major cities. But we see no evidence of planet-killing capability. We have options, but we need more information." Alan Rodriguez had been working non-stop with his team since the arrival. He now entered the council chamber with a tablet in his hands, his face pale. "We've decoded some of their ship-to-ship communications," he said. "There's a pattern here that matches historical data we've been collecting from deep space signals. The Veldari have done this before. We count 14 other civilizations they've approached with similar offers of alliance." "And what happened to those civilizations?" asked the Chinese representative. Rodriguez looked at Admiral Carter before answering. "They no longer exist as independent entities. Best we can tell, they were absorbed into the Veldari Federation as resource colonies." The room fell silent. "They're not here for alliance," Admiral Carter said finally. "This is an invasion with a polite introduction." Kevin Park, the communications officer, raised his hand. "Admiral, we're intercepting fragmented messages between their ships. They seem confused about our delayed response. Their communications suggest they expected immediate negotiations." President Miller's voice came through the speakers again. "Then we give them something they don't expect." Within hours, leaders from every nation on Earth received the same classified brief. The plan was unprecedented, risky, and required absolute global cooperation. "Protocol Stillwater is now active," President Miller announced in a worldwide address. That evening, "We ask for unity, patience, and trust." What she didn't say publicly was what would come next. The Veldari ambassador, who identified himself as Supreme Commander Zitharik, appeared on screens worldwide the following day. His skin was pale blue with faint scale-like patterns. His eyes were large and entirely black. When he spoke, his mouth moved slightly out of sync with the words. "Your leaders have received our terms. We offer technology and defense against the many dangers of this galaxy. In return, we require access to your planet's resources. You have 72 hours to accept our generous offer before we must reconsider our approach." The threat was clear. Beneath the diplomatic language. In Cheyenne Mountain Complex, President Miller met with Admiral Carter, General Morris, and representatives from Russia, China, India, and the European Union. "Are we certain this is the right approach?" asked the Russian president. "The risk is enormous," Miller nodded. "Our psychologists and game theorists all agree. The Veldari have conquered through the same pattern every time. They expect either immediate resistance or negotiation. Both paths lead to the same outcome. We need to break the pattern." "Protocol Stillwater begins in 6 hours," Admiral Carter said. "Every nation, every broadcaster, every satellite, every transmitter goes." dark simultaneously. As far as the Veldari can tell, Earth simply stops communicating. And if they attack? Asked the Indian Prime Minister. General Morris answered, "We have prepared contingencies. Submarines deployed worldwide, mountain bunkers activated, civilian evacuation plans ready. But our model suggests they won't attack immediately, they'll be confused." Olivia Wells, the top psychological warfare expert, spoke up. "Their species evolved as apex predators. Their psychology revolves around dominance hierarchies. They expect submission or confrontation because those are the only responses they've ever known. Silence is outside their psychological framework. It will create uncertainty." As the deadline approached, emergency broadcasts informed citizens worldwide of the coming silence. Internet services would continue on local networks only. Power would remain on, but reduced. Everyone was to continue daily life as normally as possible while minimizing all electronic emissions. Kevin Park monitored the Veldari communications as the deadline neared. "They're getting anxious," he reported. "Their ship-to-ship communications show they're preparing for either our surrender or an attack. They have no contingency for what we're about to do." At exactly midnight GMT, Earth went silent. All international broadcasts ceased. All communications terminated. Satellites powered down to minimal functions. Radio stations went off air. The planet that had been buzzing with electronic noise for a century suddenly went quiet. In space, the Veldari ships adjusted position. More frequent communications flashed between them. Probes launched toward major cities. Scanning for signs of life or preparation for war, they found neither. Cities remained lit but subdued. Streets had normal traffic. There was no mass panic, no military mobilization visible from orbit. But there was also no response to any Veldari transmission. Supreme Commander Zitharik sent another message. "Broadcast at higher power. People of Earth, we require your answer. This delay is discourteous and unnecessary." No response came. 3 days passed. The Veldari ships moved lower in orbit. More probes descended. They found functioning cities with people going about their business, but no one acknowledged the probes. No military forces aimed weapons at them. No government issued statements. Earth had become a planet of people who simply acted as if the Veldari did not exist. In the secure conference room deep under Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Carter watched the feeds from hidden cameras tracking Veldari movements. "They're increasing probe activity," she noted. "But still no aggressive action," Alan Rodriguez nodded. "Their communications show confusion at the highest levels. They keep asking each other what we're doing, what we're planning." They've never encountered this response before. "How long can we maintain this?" asked General Morris. President Miller looked at the representatives from around the world, all connected via secure, hardwired lines that couldn't be detected from orbit. "As long as necessary," she said. "Every nation has agreed. We maintain silence until they make a critical mistake. Our people know what to do." Outside, in homes and businesses across the planet, humanity continued its strange, quiet resistance. Children were taught in whispers why they couldn't watch their favorite shows. Workers communicated with handwritten notes. Communities organized with pre-digital methods, and in orbit, the Veldari ships moved restlessly. Like predators facing prey that refused to either fight or flee, they had expected negotiation. Humanity gave them silence instead. And in that silence, beneath the surface of apparent normalcy, Earth was preparing its response. 2 weeks into the silence, the Veldari patience began to crack. Their sleek ships descended lower over major cities, dropping more probes than before. These small devices hovered down empty streets and peered into windows of homes and businesses. People continued their daily lives with practiced calm, ignoring the alien machines completely. Deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, General Frank Morris studied the large situation map showing Veldari movements worldwide. Red dots representing alien probes clustered around major cities, while blue markers showed Earth's hidden defense positions. He turned to Admiral Carter, who had just entered the command center. "They're getting bolder with their probes, but still, No direct intervention, he said. Admiral Carter nodded, watching the displays. They're confused, and that's exactly what we wanted. Dr. Olivia Wells joined them, carrying a tablet filled with psychological analyses. As the top expert on psychological warfare, she had been instrumental in developing the silence strategy. Their communications show increasing stress patterns, she explained. Their language is becoming less structured, more emotional. Supreme. Commander Zitharic has sent 14 messages in the past day alone, each more demanding than the last. The latest message played on a nearby screen showing the blue-skinned alien commander. His black eyes seemed wider than before, his movements more abrupt. People of Earth, this silence is childish and ineffective. We offer technological advancement and protection. Your continued disregard will force us to demonstrate our power. Respond within 12 hours. Admiral Carter checked her watch. That deadline passed 3 hours ago. And still no attack, said General Morris. They're hesitating. Across the ocean beneath the dark waters of the Pacific, Captain Eric Graham commanded the submarine USS Vigilant. His vessel was one of hundreds hidden beneath the world's oceans, maintaining complete radio silence while moving into strategic positions. The submarine's passive sonar detected the faint sounds of Veldari underwater probes searching blindly. Above them, maintain depth and course, he whispered to his crew. Silent running protocols remain in effect. The sailors nodded, performing their duties with minimal communication. They had trained for years for underwater stealth, but never imagined using those skills against an alien force. Captain Graham studied the navigation chart, knowing that similar submarines from nations around the world were also moving silently into their assigned positions, waiting for the signal that would end the silence. In orbit, Amanda Foster led a team of satellite engineers monitoring Earth from hidden observation posts. Their systems remained in passive mode, only receiving data, never transmitting. Through carefully shielded equipment, they watched as 3 Veldari ships broke formation and descended toward Washington, D.C., Beijing, and Moscow. They're making their move, she noted in her logbook using pen and paper. No electronic communications. Would leave their bunker. The Veldari landing crafts touched down in empty parks and public squares. Armed figures emerged cautiously, their weapons raised. They found streets that were nearly empty, with only a few pedestrians who glanced at them briefly, then continued walking as if the aliens were nothing unusual. In the White House Situation Room, President Miller received the news via a young runner who had traveled through underground tunnels carrying a sealed message. Landings confirmed in all 3 target cities, Madam President, she read. No engagement with civilians yet. Miller turned to her advisors. And our defensive preparations? Nearly complete, replied Defense Secretary William Edwards. Dr. Wright reports the quantum entanglement communicators will be ready within 48 hours. Once operational, we can coordinate globally without any detectable signals. In a laboratory beneath MIT, Dr. Samuel Wright made final adjustments to a device that would change the nature of human communication. The quantum entanglement network would allow instant transmission without radio waves or any detectable emissions. Messages sent through paired quantum particles would be impossible for the Veldari to intercept or even detect. Final calibration complete, he told his team. Begin distribution of paired receivers to command centers. Across the country, in small towns and big cities, people continued the discipline of silence. Children played in parks within view of alien probes, but never pointed or stared. Farmers tended fields, ignoring strange craft that hovered overhead. In homes, families spoke in whispers and used paper messages for important communications. The Veldari expanded their ground presence, establishing small bases in abandoned military facilities and government buildings. Their patrols moved through empty streets, finding a population that neither welcomed nor opposed them. It was as if humanity had collectively decided the aliens simply did not exist. Supreme. Commander Zitharic established his command post in what had been the National Mall in Washington, D.C. From there, he sent increasingly frustrated messages both to Earth's leaders and to his own fleet. This behavior is unprecedented and unacceptable, he told his officers. No species has ever responded this way. They must be planning something, his second-in-command suggested. Perhaps they have no unified leadership. Perhaps they cannot respond. Impossible, Zitharik replied. We detected their global communications network before we arrived. They coordinated this silence. They are playing some game, but I will force them to reveal themselves. He ordered a new message broadcast at maximum power on all frequencies. People of Earth, your silence insults the Veldari Federation. Tomorrow we will demonstrate our power by destroying an uninhabited island in your Pacific Ocean. This is but a fraction of our capability. Respond or face escalating consequences. The message played on emergency channels that still functioned in homes and public spaces across the planet. People heard it but maintained their discipline. No official response came. The next day, a Veldari ship positioned itself over a small uninhabited island in the Pacific. A beam of intense light shot downward lasting 30 seconds. When it stopped, the island was simply gone, leaving only steam rising from the ocean. In Cheyenne, Mountain Admiral Carter watched the demonstration with her staff. Energy readings are consistent with our estimates, reported Alan Rodriguez. Powerful but limited. They could destroy cities but not crack the planet. And the energy expenditure was significant. Their ship is now drawing power from the others to recharge. So they have limits, said General Morris. Good to know. Dr. Wells studied the alien communications intercepted after the demonstration. They expected this to break us. They're growing increasingly agitated by our continued silence. Their psychology cannot comprehend this response. On day 27, Lieutenant Stephanie Gray, who monitored Veldari communications, noticed a new message. Unlike the others, this one came not from Zitharik but from somewhere far beyond the solar system. It was addressed to the Supreme Commander from something called the Veldari Federation Council. The Council expresses concern about extended deployment at Target World, she translated. Request status update and timeline for resource acquisition. Other priority targets await Federation attention. They have a schedule to keep, Admiral Carter observed. And we're causing delays. More than delays, said Dr. Wells. We're causing doubt. The Council message questions whether Earth is a viable target. They're wondering if Zitharik is wasting resources. The response from the Supreme Commander was immediate and defensive, claiming the situation was under control and acquisition was imminent. But everyone in the command center recognized the lie. The Veldari were growing uncertain and their unity was showing cracks. President Miller received the report with cautious optimism. How much longer can we maintain this silence? The civilian infrastructure is holding, reported her chief of staff. Local communities have adapted to limited communications. Food and essential services continue. We can maintain this for months. If necessary. And the Veldari? Admiral Carter answered. They're getting desperate. Our strategy is working. They don't know how to handle an enemy that won't engage. Each day they grow more frustrated. Each day their ships use more resources without gaining anything in return. Most importantly, they've begun making mistakes. What kind of mistakes? Asked Miller. They're powering down secondary systems to conserve energy. Their patrol patterns have become predictable. Their communications are less secure. They're showing weakness, and soon they'll show enough for us to strike. We just need to maintain the silence a little longer. Outside the mountain complex, the world continued its strange, quiet resistance. Humans went about their lives while aliens watched in growing confusion, wondering why this planet full of people simply refused to acknowledge their existence. The Veldari had expected negotiation, but humanity's silence was proving more powerful than any weapon. Day 30 of the silence brought a change in Veldari tactics. Frustrated by the continued lack of response, Zitharik ordered his ground forces to expand their presence. Alien troops established bases in abandoned military facilities and began active patrols through major cities. They entered empty government buildings and set up scanning equipment in public squares. Still, humanity maintained its discipline, treating the armed aliens like invisible ghosts. In the forests outside Seattle, Colonel Jack Wilson led a team of Special Forces soldiers on a silent observation mission. They wore no electronic equipment, carried no powered devices, and communicated only with hand signals. Their faces were painted with mud, and their clothing blended perfectly with the dense vegetation. Through binoculars, Wilson watched as a Veldari scout team examined an electrical substation. He made a quick motion with his hand, and his team melted deeper into the forest, moving without sound. Similar teams around the world monitored Veldari movements, gathering intelligence without ever engaging the enemy. Every observation was recorded with pencil and paper, then delivered by hand to secure bunkers. No transmissions, no electronics, no detectable presence. The quantum entanglement network went live on day 32. In secure facilities around the world, military and government leaders received small devices that looked like simple black boxes. These boxes contained particles linked at the quantum level to their counterparts in other devices. When one particle changed state, its paired particle changed instantaneously regardless of distance. The result was instant communication with no detectable signals. President Miller held the first global leadership meeting through the new network. Her words appeared as text on screens in bunkers across the world. The silent strategy has exceeded expectations. Veldari command structure shows signs of stress, and their Federation Council has sent 3 messages questioning the mission. How do we proceed? Admiral Carter responded from Cheyenne Mountain. We continue the silence but accelerate preparations for Phase 2. The Veldari are making critical mistakes. Their ships are powering down secondary systems during Earth's night cycle to conserve energy. Their patrol patterns have become predictable. They've begun landing larger forces, showing their growing desperation. From a bunker beneath Moscow, the Russian president added, "Our submarines are in position. Chinese aerospace forces report readiness. European ground forces have completed silent deployments. We await only the signal." In his headquarters on the National Mall, Zafarek paced anxiously. 34 days had passed without a single response from Earth's leaders. His troops patrolled empty streets, entered vacant buildings, and scanned for signs of resistance but found none. The humans simply continued their lives, ignoring the Veldari. Completely in frustration, he ordered a powerful message broadcast across the planet. His blue face appeared on emergency channels in homes and public spaces worldwide. People of Earth, your silence is meaningless. We know you are hiding, waiting, planning. This childish game delays the inevitable. The Veldari Federation has conquered 14 worlds. Some fought, some negotiated, but all eventually submitted. Your strategy gains you nothing. Speak now, or we will escalate our presence. No response came. In a laboratory beneath San Francisco, Dr. Nancy Cooper examined a piece of Veldari technology recovered by one of Colonel Wilson's teams. As a xenobiologist, she studied not just the device, but what it revealed about its creators. Their technology requires constant communication, she explained to her colleagues. Every system, every device continuously sends and receives signals. Even their personal equipment maintains constant contact with their ships. They seem almost pathologically connected, unable to function in isolation. This information traveled via quantum link to command centers worldwide. Admiral Carter immediately recognized its significance. They've evolved as a hive-minded species, she said to her staff. Not truly collective consciousness, but close. Isolation creates anxiety, even fear. Our silence isn't just confusing them, it's psychologically destabilizing them. Lieutenant Stephanie Gray monitored Veldari communications with growing interest. The translator programs had improved, allowing her to understand more of their internal messages. What she found confirmed Dr. Cooper's theory. They're reporting psychological distress among ground troops, she told Admiral Carter. Multiple units show decreased function and increased error rates. Some are experiencing something, like panic attacks. 2 scout teams have gone silent, possibly abandoned their posts. On day 36, the Veldari Federation Council sent another message to Zafarek. Lieutenant Gray translated it immediately. The Council expresses serious concern about resource expenditure on a potentially dead or primitive world. Other priority. Targets await Federation attention. Provide immediate justification for continued deployment or prepare for recall. Zitharic's response was immediate and angry. Earth is neither dead nor primitive. Their silence is a strategy, not weakness. I will not abandon a viable acquisition target. I request additional time and resources to complete the mission. The Council's reply was short. Request denied. Complete mission within 15 Federation cycles or face recall and censure. Peter Morgan, an intelligence analyst, studied historical Veldari conquest patterns. His report reached President Miller via quantum link. In 14 previous encounters, the Veldari have never experienced this response. Every species either fought immediately or entered negotiations. Their conquest strategy relies on this binary reaction. They have no protocols for a third option. The President shared this with global leaders along with Admiral Carter's assessment. The Veldari are fracturing under psychological pressure. They face resource limitations, time constraints from their council, and a completely unexpected situation. The moment approaches when we can act from maximum advantage. On day 39, Zitharic made his most desperate move yet. A Veldari ship positioned itself over the evacuated city of Los Angeles and fired its weapons. Buildings crumbled, bridges collapsed, and fires spread across empty neighborhoods. The destruction was broadcast on all frequencies with a simple message: end your silence or watch your cities burn. In Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Carter watched the attack with her staff. No one spoke as the buildings fell. Finally, General Morris broke the silence. Any casualties? None confirmed, replied his aide. The evacuation was completed weeks ago. The Veldari are destroying empty buildings. They're getting desperate, said Dr. Wells. This is an emotional response, not a strategic one. They expected this display to break our resolve to shock us into responding. And still we give them nothing, said Admiral Carter. Not one word, not one sign that we even noticed their tantrum. The attack continued for 20 minutes, then stopped. The Veldari ship moved away, rejoining the fleet in orbit. No response came from Earth's leaders, no military mobilization, no panicked civilians. The planet remained silent on day 42. NASA engineer Daniel Harris made a critical discovery while analyzing Veldari ship movements. Their vessels require constant communication with each other to maintain defense systems, he reported. When one ship moves beyond certain range, its shields weaken significantly. They rely on networked defense more than individual protection. This information reached Admiral Carter, who immediately recognized its strategic value. We found their weakness. If we can disrupt their communications, their entire defense network collapses. Dr. Raymond Phillips, a quantum physicist, had been working on adapting Veldari communication frequencies. His team had developed a device that could interfere with the alien signals, disrupting their network without being detected beforehand. The disruptor is ready for deployment, he informed Admiral Carter. Once activated, it will sever all communications between Veldari ships and ground forces. The effect will be immediate and total. President Miller called a secure meeting of global leaders. The quantum network allowed them to communicate instantly without the Veldari detecting a single signal. We've maintained silence for 45 days, she told them. Our patience has revealed the enemy's weaknesses. Their ships conserve power during night cycles. Their troops show signs of psychological breakdown. Their command structure is fracturing. The Federation Council threatens to abandon the mission. Most importantly, we now have the means to disrupt their essential communications. I believe the time has come to move to the next phase. Are we in agreement? The answers came back one by one. Yes, from Russia. Yes, from China. Yes, from the European Union. Yes, from India. Yes, from every nation, large and small. After 45 days of silence, humanity was ready to speak with one voice. Prepare Operation Thunderclap, ordered President Miller. All forces moved to final positions. We will end our silence at a time of our choosing, not theirs. Throughout the world, in submarines and mountain bunkers and forests and underground bases, humans prepared for the moment when silence would give way to thunder. The Veldari had expected negotiation. Humanity had given them silence. Soon they would learn what came after the silence. By day 45, the changes in Veldari behavior became impossible to miss. Their ships drifted in looser formations, no longer maintaining the perfect geometric patterns of their arrival. During Earth's night cycles, entire sections of their vessels went dark as they conserved power. Ground patrols became erratic, some moving with nervous speed, others barely moving at all. Most telling of all three Veldari ships had moved to higher orbits, distancing themselves from the main fleet. Admiral Carter studied the orbital tracking data with growing satisfaction. The quantum entanglement network allowed her to receive updates from monitoring stations worldwide without sending a single detectable signal. "Their formation is breaking down," she told her staff. "Those three ships at higher orbit are preparing to leave. They're beginning to abandon Zitharak." Lieutenant Gray translated the latest communications between the separated ships and the main fleet. "The captains of those vessels are requesting permission to return to Federation space, citing fuel concerns. Zitharak has denied their requests, but they appear to be preparing to leave anyway." Dr. Wells nodded as she reviewed the patterns. Classic dominance hierarchy fragmentation. When the leader fails to achieve objectives, the subordinates begin to question authority. The longer this continues, the more ships will break away. In Washington, D.C., Zitharak paced the command center, his movements jerky with frustration. Screens around him showed empty streets, passive humans, and silent cities. 45 days without a single official response from Earth's leaders. No negotiations, no resistance, no recognition at all. "Increase ground patrols," he ordered. "Expand our presence in all major cities. They must respond eventually." His second-in-command hesitated. "Supreme Commander, our troops report increasing difficulty maintaining order. Unit cohesion is degrading. Many have never operated this long without central network support." Zitharak turned, his black eyes blazing with anger. "Are we Veldari or not? We have conquered 14 worlds. We will not be defeated by silence." From her hidden position deep beneath the ocean floor, Marine Major Helen Martinez led a stealth mission unlike any in human history. Her team of 12 specially trained Marines moved through underwater caves to reach a position directly beneath a Veldari landing site. Using only analog equipment and breathing through chemical scrubbers that produced no bubbles, they approached their target. "Proceed as planned," she whispered to her team. "No electronic signatures, no detectable presence." One by one, her Marines placed tiny tracking devices on the hulls of Veldari shuttles. These passive devices emitted no signals but would reflect specific wavelengths, allowing Earth forces to target the vessels with perfect accuracy when the time came. Similar teams operated at Veldari landing sites around the world, tagging ships and gathering intelligence without ever engaging the enemy. Defense Secretary William Edwards coordinated with military leaders worldwide through the quantum network. Russian submarine commanders reported readiness from beneath the Arctic ice. Chinese aerospace forces confirmed positions in mountain bunkers. European special forces completed final preparations for ground assaults. All waited for the signal that would end our silence. Operation Thunderclap preparations at 97%, Edwards reported to President Miller. Estimated 12 hours until full readiness. The president nodded. The timing must be perfect. We strike when they are at their weakest, when their confusion is at its peak. On day 52, the Veldari Federation Council sent its final message. To Zitharak. Lieutenant Gray translated it immediately, her eyes widening as she read. The Council formally orders immediate withdrawal from Target Earth. Mission classified as failed acquisition. Return to Federation space for reassignment and review. Continued disobedience will result in permanent censure. The response from Zitharak shocked even the experienced intelligence officers. The Supreme Commander refused the order directly, challenging the Council's authority. He declared Earth a viable target and promised conquest within 15 cycles. His language bordered on insubordination, threatening the strict hierarchy that governed Veldari society. "He's breaking from his own leadership," Admiral Carter observed. "This is exactly what we wanted." 3 hours later, 3 Veldari ships broke formation and departed the solar system, ignoring Zitharic's commands to remain. The Supreme Commander's authority was crumbling before Earth's silent patience. In his command center, Zitharic made his final desperate gamble. He ordered a major attack on Earth's infrastructure, targeting dams, power stations, and water systems. 5 Veldari ships descended into the atmosphere, positioning themselves over key locations. "They will respond to this," he told his officers. "No species can maintain silence while its critical systems are destroyed." The attacks began at dawn. Energy beams struck dams in North America, power stations in Europe, and water systems in Asia. Careful targeting minimized the risk to human life, but the damage to infrastructure was severe. Fires burned bridges, collapsed, and floodwaters rushed through evacuated valleys. Still, Earth maintained its silence. No official response came, no military mobilization, no panicked broadcasts. Repair teams moved in darkness, working without lights or powered equipment, fixing essential systems while remaining invisible to Veldari sensors. In Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Carter watched the attacks with grim determination. "They're expending massive energy on these strikes. Their ships will need to recharge afterward." "Power readings confirm significant energy depletion," reported Alan Rodriguez. "2 vessels are already returning to the main fleet for recharging. The others will follow within hours." "Perfect," said Admiral Carter. "They've committed their forces, exhausted their weapons, and revealed their positions exactly as we predicted." She turned to her communications officer. "Send the message through the quantum network. One word only: thunderclap." Throughout the world, military commanders received the signal. Submarine captains ordered their vessels to final positions. Air Force pilots prepared for launch from hidden underground hangars. Special Forces teams moved silently into attack positions. 57 days of silence were about to end. Dr. Raymond Phillips activated the Quantum Disruption Network. Devices placed strategically around the world powered up, targeting the specific frequencies used by Veldari ships and ground forces. The effect was immediate and devastating. All communication between Veldari vessels ceased instantly. Ground troops lost contact with their command centers. The complex network that coordinated their defenses and operations collapsed. In orbit, the Veldari ships drifted in confusion, their crews suddenly isolated from each other. On the ground, alien soldiers froze, uncertain what to do without constant guidance from their network. For a species evolved to function in constant communication, the silence was more than confusing, it was terrifying. In Washington, D.C., Zitharic stared at silent screens, his command center suddenly cut off from his fleet and ground forces. For the first time since arriving on Earth, he felt something new, something alien to Veldari psychology. He felt fear. President Miller stood in the White House bunker, surrounded by her advisors. For 57 days, she had maintained Earth's disciplined silence, leading humanity through its greatest crisis. Now she gave a single nod to Admiral Carter. "End the silence," she said. "Operation Thunderclap is authorized." Admiral Carter took a deep breath and pressed the transmit button on a global communication system that had remained silent for nearly 2 months. Her voice, clear and strong, broke Earth silence, broadcasting on all frequencies, including those used by the Veldari. "Fleet, attention Veldari forces. This is Admiral Lisa Carter of Earth's Combined Defense Force. For 57 days, you have occupied our space, insulted our people, and attacked our infrastructure. You expected negotiation. Your mistake. Humanity speaks now with one voice. Surrender or be destroyed." Throughout the world, in oceans, skies, and cities, humans emerged from silence. Submarines surfaced, launching missiles at disabled Veldari ships. Fighter jets rose from hidden bases, targeting alien vessels unable to coordinate their defenses. Special Forces teams moved against confused ground troops who had never trained to fight. Without constant communication, humanity had given the Veldari silence. Now they would give them thunder. The world erupted in coordinated action after 57 days of silence. Submarines lurking beneath the oceans surfaced just long enough to launch missiles at the Veldari ships, struggling to restore their communications. The alien vessels, with their network defenses disabled, could not coordinate to protect each other. Missiles struck with precision targeting engines and weapon systems rather than attempting complete destruction. Captain Eric Graham watched through the periscope of the USS Vigilant as his submarine's missiles streaked toward a Veldari ship hovering low over the Pacific. "Direct hits on all targeted systems," reported his weapons officer. "Their engines are disabled, their weapons offline." Similar reports came in from submarines worldwide. Russian vessels in the Arctic, Japanese submarines in the East China Sea, British submarines in the Atlantic, all striking simultaneously at enemies who never imagined an attack from below. In mountain bases across Asia, fighter jets launched from hidden runways, their pilots executing attack plans rehearsed for weeks. Without their communication network, the Veldari ships could not track multiple incoming threats from different directions. The fighters targeted specific vulnerabilities, placing precision strikes on communication arrays and shield generators. Colonel Jack Wilson led his Special Forces team through the streets of Washington, D.C., moving with practiced stealth toward the Veldari Command Center. Similar teams worldwide converged on alien ground forces, who found themselves suddenly cut off from their ships and each other. The Veldari soldiers, trained to function as coordinated units linked by constant communication, were now isolated and confused. "Move in standard formation," Wilson whispered to his team. "Remember, their armor is strongest in front, weakest at the joints." His soldiers nodded, advancing with weapons designed specifically to penetrate Veldari protection. Weeks of silent observation had revealed the aliens' weaknesses, and humanity had prepared accordingly. In orbit, the Veldari flagship struggled to restore communications. Supreme Commander Zitharaka's voice, desperate and angry, broadcast on all frequencies. "This is a temporary setback. Restore backup communications immediately. All ships defend your positions." But his orders went unheeded. Without the network that bound them together, Veldari ships could not coordinate their actions. Some attempted to flee, others tried to fight, while many simply drifted, disabled by precise missile strikes on their engines. President Miller watched from the White House bunker as reports flowed in through the quantum network. Earth's forces striking from land, sea, and air in perfect coordination against an enemy that had lost its greatest advantage. "Status report," she requested. Defense Secretary Edwards responded immediately. 16 Veldari ships disabled. 4 attempting to leave orbit, but our orbital platforms have locked onto their engines. Ground forces engaging alien troops in 23 locations worldwide. Minimal casualties on our side. The Veldari are in disarray. Admiral Carter's voice came through clear and confident. "Zitharak's command ship is isolated above Washington. We've disabled its engines and weapons. He's trapped." "Open a direct channel to him," ordered President Miller. "It's time to end this." Admiral Carter established communication with the Veldari flagship. On screens worldwide, the blue face of Supreme Commander Zitharak appeared, his black eyes wide with shock and anger. "Supreme Commander," said President Miller, her voice calm and measured, "for 57 days you have occupied our space, threatened our people, and demanded our submission. You expected negotiation, you received silence. Now you will hear our terms." The alien commander struggled to maintain his composure. "This temporary advantage means nothing. The Veldari Federation will send more ships. You cannot hope to resist our full might." "Your Federation Council has already abandoned you," replied Miller. "They ordered your withdrawal days ago. You refused. 3 of your ships have already fled. The others are disabled or soon will be. Your ground forces are surrounded. You have no position from which to threaten." For the first time, uncertainty crossed the alien's face. "What do you want?" "Unconditional surrender of all Veldari forces. Complete withdrawal from this solar system. A binding treaty acknowledging Earth's sovereignty and independence. These terms are non-negotiable." Zitharak's expression hardened. "And if I refuse?" Admiral Carter answered. "Then we complete what we've begun. Your ships will be destroyed, your forces eliminated. The choice is yours, but I suggest you decide quickly. Our patience is at an end." In cities worldwide, the fighting intensified as special forces teams engaged confused Veldari troops. Colonel Wilson's team reached the Alien Command Center in Washington, D.C., surrounding it with precision and discipline. "All units in position," he reported through the quantum network, awaiting orders. Aboard his flagship, Zitharek faced the collapse of everything he had believed about his mission and his species' dominance. His ships disabled, his troops surrounded, his council having abandoned him, he had no options left. "I will communicate with the Federation Council," he said finally. "I accept your terms under protest." President Miller nodded. "You have 1 hour to begin withdrawal. Any hostile action will be met with immediate and overwhelming force." As the communication ended, cheers erupted in command centers worldwide. After nearly 2 months of disciplined silence, humanity had spoken with one voice and the invaders had listened. The withdrawal began immediately. Veldari ground forces retreated to their landing craft, abandoning equipment and positions. Disabled ships were towed by those still functioning, preparing to leave Earth orbit. Within hours, the aliens who had arrived with such confidence and arrogance were in full retreat. In Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Carter watched the departure with her staff. "Maintain full alert status," she ordered. "Track every ship until they're beyond the orbit of Mars." "Do you think they'll be back?" asked General Morris. Dr. Wells shook her head. "Not these ones. The psychological damage we've inflicted runs deep. We didn't just defeat their military, we broke their fundamental understanding of how species interact. They had no category for our response. And the Federation? They'll think twice," said Admiral Carter. "We've shown we're not like the other worlds they conquered. We've demonstrated patience, discipline, and unity they never expected. Most importantly, we've shown we can identify and exploit their weaknesses." 1 week later, the last Veldari ship crossed the orbit of Mars, heading out of the solar system. Earth began the process of rebuilding the limited damage from the conflict. More importantly, preparations began for the future humanity now knew awaited them among the stars. President Miller addressed the United Nations in its first public session since the crisis began. "We faced our greatest challenge not with anger or fear, but with silence and unity. When threatened, we did not fragment or surrender. We stood together, all nations, all peoples as one. The Veldari expected negotiation, but humanity gave silence. And in that silence, we found our greatest strength." 6 months later, launched its first colony ship to Mars. The vessel carried scientists, engineers, and families from nations around the world. It represented the new unity that had emerged from the crisis, an understanding that humanity's future depended on cooperation, not conflict. Admiral Carter watched the launch from her office window. On her desk sat a new defense doctrine approved by every nation on Earth. Its title was simple but profound: the Silence Protocol. Its opening lines read, "When threatened, we do not negotiate, we do not fragment. We observe, we plan, we unite, and when we finally speak, it is with one voice." 1 year to the day after the Veldari departure, a message arrived through deep space channels. The Veldari Federation formally recognized Earth's sovereignty and pledged non-interference. More importantly, intelligence reports indicated they had abandoned campaigns against 3 other worlds following their failure at Earth. Humanity's silence had echoed across the stars, teaching a powerful lesson to those who would threaten them. They had faced an advanced enemy not with superior technology but with patience, discipline, and unity. They had won not by outfighting their opponent but by outthinking them. They had shown the galaxy that humanity would not be conquered through the usual patterns of intimidation and force. When others expected negotiation, humanity gave silence. And that silence had proven more powerful than any weapon.